flaky, croissant-esque, multi-layered episode of Midlife Crisis.
Couple of flakes here.
There's a couple of 2-3 flakes in this room. And of course, we're joined by the fair prince over there in Video Village, making it happen.
Video Village.
Making the cuts, kicking the butts.
Doesn't Video Village sound like the place where you would sneak into the back room for VHS tapes and?
Oh yeah, where there were barn doors.
Yeah, behind the barn doors
Yeah.
or a curtain.
The beaded doors.
Yeah, they're beaded doors or barn doors. Or to answer your question, yeah, I definitely would slowly walk into those rooms until I got
spent some
caught.
time as a teenage boy in Video Village's back room.
That's
The
exactly.
trick was you stood right next to it and then looked through side-eyeing.
Yeah, exactly. I would totally do that. Yeah, so
Bear Creek Video.
Bear Creek Video. I would be looking at the wrestling. And right next to wrestling, of course, was what we're now lovingly calling Video Village. And yeah, you would crank those eyes as hard as you possibly could to get that material in your peripheral.
I was just really interested in Carnosaur. And I was just, every day I would look at the cover for minutes at a time.
Yeah, and you were also interested in the porno version of Carnosaur.
Boy.
Yeah.
Thank God that those stores have gone the way of the dodo, so that children are no longer exposed to at least illicit materials at such a young age.
Yeah, no.
Now that we just have the internet.
Yeah,
where
it's
only-
just water over the bridge. Real easy, no problems at all. Well, speaking, in fact, good sir, of problems, let's talk about Sony.
Segue's always the best.
Okay, so as we record, you'll probably be seeing this just, I think, 2 weeks ago as we record, maybe 1 week. Sony announced the long-rumored PlayStation 5 Pro.
Yeah.
Before we get into the details of this thing, wind that clock back. We've talked about this thing on the show. And neither one of us gave a shit about it.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not interested at all.
At all. And I'm more interested in just like having more things come out on just the PlayStation 5 level. That would be
nice.
helpful.
Yeah.
Before you go into the Pro territory.
Yeah.
So let's talk about all the things that this thing includes and doesn't include, and then we can kind of go over it. So the price is $700 US,
Yeah.
which is like 3DO Neo Geo money, which I think is funny.
Yeah.
It does not include a disk drive. For what it's worth, it doesn't include a vertical stand, which is just kind of funny that they wouldn't do that. It comes with a standard controller. They just sold out in minutes. They just sold out of the 30th, which was $1,000, and it included the $200 PlayStation controller, the Edge, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And I want to say they did slide that vertical stand in that $1,000 SKU, if I remember right, but I could be wrong on that. So anyway, it's $700, and in a nutshell, the fine engineer, Marble Madness himself, Mark Cerny, said that for that $700 investment, you're roughly getting, and this is obviously not like a real figure, but they're saying from a marketing standpoint, it's like 40% power, a boost of power.
Yeah.
So, $700, is that worth a 40 to 50% boost in power to you?
No.
Yeah,
And
I'm there too.
it wouldn't be worth it if it was a 40% boost in power, and the images and videos that they're showing off to show the differences, and these are like the Sony homemade, this like their sizzle reel to show how much better it is. It does not look 40% better. It looks at best 10% better.
Yeah, I think that's closer.
And at a time when what we really need are more great games on the Sony PlayStation, and at a time when we've talked about Astrobot as an example of a game that doesn't require a ton of horsepower, and I don't think is going to look better at all on the PS5 Pro compared to the PS5. The last thing in the world that we need is for them to come out with a console that is 40% more expensive than their existing console, and that the games will look 10% better on.
Yeah.
Oh, and then also, by the way, does not include a disk drive, does not include a stand for those who care about it. A lot of people care about the disk drive. I care about the disk drive.
Yeah.
I have the disk drive on my PS5. I only buy, as you do, I know.
So I read a thing, I want to say it was, it might have been Kotaku. Anyway, somebody did the breakdown of like how many PlayStation 5 owners are also physical
Media
disc owners.
purchases,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there is more. The segment is larger. And Sony knows this. So they're going after that segment that already spends more money on their stuff.
Yeah. So it's not a $700 console, it's a $780 console.
Yeah. And then if you want that dumb stand, that's I think another $20. So that's
Yeah.
actually an $800 console, and that's before tax.
And the original PS5 you can get for, I think I saw it on Amazon for $450 right
Yeah,
now.
the all digital one where if you don't want the disc drive, it's $450.
Okay, and then with the disc drive,
$500.
$500.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, this is a
Fantastic.
you are Prince. So this is prohibitively more expensive, and for your average gamer or just average budget, it's just insanity. So first of all, if you don't have a Sony console and you want to get one, $800 is a lot to spend, particularly when you can get a Switch
Right.
for like $300.
You could buy, if you go on Nintendo's website and go to like their refurbished hardware, which Nintendo refurbished hardware is like legendarily known as it's brand new.
Yeah.
Like if you bought anything from their online store, like it just looks like you bought a brand new thing. You could buy Switch Lites for $150 on their website. So you could get 4 of those and then still have $100 left over to, like buy eShop points or whatever the fuck you're going to do.
So if you are out there in this world and you don't have a console and you have a kid who's coming of age and wants a console and you don't have money, go get a Switch Lite or a Switch if you really want to splurge.
Yeah.
You've got to really be committed if you want, and that's the thing. What I was going to say is you got to be really committed if you want PS5 Pro. But for those of us who are really committed, which includes the 2 people sitting at this table right now, we already have PS5s, and we're looking at the PS5 Pro, and we are kind of the demographic who would buy that.
Oh, yeah.
If it was worth it. And we're looking at it going, no,
Yeah, it's
not
definitely
worth
not,
it.
not at all.
No disc drive, significantly more expensive. Your own marketing materials don't show it to be that much better.
So on the marketing materials thing, I think it's very funny that Sony did this whole like live stream, which typically obviously like there's going to be visual degradation in a live stream. The one that they did specifically, to my knowledge, it was just a 1080p feed. And they're showing these assets that like even if you're looking at like native 4K, like you're in the room, 5 feet away from like a TV. It's hard pressed to see the differences in that scenario. And yet Sony thought it fitting to show this stuff in like fucking terrible streaming video. It's like and I don't know how you solve that problem because you have to do it that way. And of course they're going to talk about it, but it's like the whole thing makes no sense. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't actually know that. It doesn't change my opinion though because it's on Sony to sort of get this right. You're showing me a product and you want me to give you a not insignificant amount of money to go buy that product.
Yeah.
And I'm already coming into it. This is like, not to get political, but like when you watch Fox News.
Get political. States' rights. Let's do it.
There we go. When you watch Fox News, you understand there's like a conservative bias,
Yeah.
So when you're watching a Sony state of play video and you're watching them tout their own product, there's a little bit at least of grain of salt stuff where it's like, all right, guys, I expect this to be the best possible presentation to make me want this product because you're the ones making it.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't, like their own videos, like, and here is how things look. And they're showing like Ratchet and Clank, which is a PS5 exclusive, looked pretty good on PS5.
Oh, yeah.
And when they're showing the differences on PS5 Pro, it's like, if you look in the background here, you see the people who are in the crowd, they're rendered at a better resolution.
Yeah.
There's more. It's like, guys, no.
Yeah,
that's
no
not,
one gives a shit.
No, it just doesn't matter at all. And the worst time ever for them to do this because Astrobot just came out, and Astrobot is fantastic and doesn't rely on any of that bleeding edge graphic stuff. If they were going to do this, what you do is you do it with like a new Last of Us or a Horizon or something where there could be a significant enough graphical boost that it's like, oh man, I kind of better get this or else. And it's just not there. Show it with the GTA, but GTA 6.
Yeah.
And it's be like, hey, GTA 6 is going to be the biggest game ever next year, and you want that to look the best that it can possibly look, then buy it here. And they ain't doing it.
Yeah, that was definitely. So what was shown was a bunch of 3 to 4 year old games.
Yes.
that are getting the benefits. I'll say this: this is devil's advocate stuff because, as we've clearly established, I'm not spending $700 on this. But I'll say this: one of my biggest complaints about this entire generation of consoles is like this weird And to be fair, more recently games have kind of gotten away from this. But for the first like 3 years of this shit, you got this feeling of FOMO, or at least I did, where like I would want to play a game. They would give the option of a performance mode and a resolution mode.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would want to check out resolution mode because I have a 4K TV. I want to see how nice that looks. And it's almost always at the expense of frame rate. And then the inverse is true. So in performance mode, your minimum 60. A lot of games do 120 hertz, but then you're not getting full. You're getting typically like 1440 to 1080p resolution, and like this constant having to choose between the ones, like I hated it. Like I always felt like I was missing out if I was doing the other thing. This solves that, where within the Pro enhanced mode, like there's just it's just one choice, and it does everything all at once. At least that's the goal. I'm skeptical that they're going to actually be able to achieve this ultimate goal in the same way that the PlayStation 4 Pro, which I actually do own, and the only reason I bought that was because when my PS4 died, that was all I could get. So I got one. Never really saw the advantages to it personally. But that was the thing there. Like very, very few PS4 Pro games were 4K native. And like that's on the box. Like you want 4K gaming? This is why you buy this.
Yeah.
And so that's the promise of the 5 Pro is that you'll get games that support 120 hertz. They'll be 120 hertz and they'll be full native 4K. I don't believe that promise. I think they're going to get close to it. Like I'll say most likely, especially with first party stuff, you're probably going to get 4K and you're probably going to get 60. And that rules. Like that is impressive and it's cool. Yeah. And it does solve this problem of having to make this choice. But like famously when the PS5 came out on the box,
I was going to say the
8K.
8K. Yeah.
Now that is not on that box anymore.
Who knew that they would pull a fast one on us like that? Yeah.
And I do think that this generation, and especially on the Sony side, I feel there's been a Molyneux-esque overpromise, underdeliver when it comes to like the hardware and the features. Like when you look at this, the PS5 rules. Like as a thing, it rules, and it's capable of doing some incredible shit. Is it that markedly better than a PS4? I don't think it is.
Especially a PS4 Pro.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Now, I never owned a PS4 Pro, so the PS5 has been one of my favorite consoles ever.
Of course.
Because I'm just getting the entire ocean of content just delivered to me. It's been great. But
you're trying out pepperoni pizza for the very first time, and boy, do you have a lot of things to say.
Guys, this is really good. Do you know about this? Do you know about this?
I don't have to use a fork or anything.
So with the PS5, well, and this is a part of it too, is that the console is old enough now that PC gaming is just better every single time if you have a good enough graphics card.
Yeah.
And when the PS5 first came out, I hadn't built my new PC yet, but also the PS5 at the time was bleeding edge technology, and those first party games are geared and they're catered so closely to the PS5 hardware that when you're playing Horizon Forbidden West, I mean, that looks as good as anything bleeding edge PC at the time.
Yeah.
Demon Souls was another one, the Demon Souls remake.
Totally.
I mean, it was, the graphical fidelity is incredible. Now it's 4 years later, and you're still stuck on the same PS5 hardware, but PC graphics, or graphics cards anyway, have continued to evolve, and now we've got 4090s, and the 5090 specs were just rumored.
Yeah, they sure were.
And that's going to be another big boost. So for at least the next few years, like there is no choice, in my opinion. If you have a high-end PC and a high-end console, you're going to want to play your games on PC.
Well, do you think that this is exactly like the wedge in the middle between the two? Like, is this an equivalent of a high-end PC? And it's obviously they're marketing it as being better than an entry-level video game console. Yeah. They're trying to market this thing as a bridgeway between the two.
Yeah.
Do you think it achieves that for you?
So, well, for me, no, because I have a high-end PC.
Yeah.
but it's not being fair to Sony, even though we beat them up a lot, because my high-end PC was 10 times what their console cost.
Yeah.
So it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. However, the Digital Foundry guys have gone into this, and I think that they said that the PS5 Pro is going to be similar to like a 3080.
Yeah, that's
in
what
terms
I've
of
seen
video
too.
card. I believe that was the number that they used, and that's still pretty good performance. So that's not bad. The big complaint that I have is that you're not competing directly against high-end PCs. We're just such a niche audience. Most people don't have, or they don't make that kind of investment.
Yeah.
You're competing against in the console market. So you're competing against existing PS5 owners, of which I am also one.
Yeah.
And asking them to give you $800 after they gave you $550.
And they're competing with people who, I mean, there's so few people that don't own a Switch nowadays, obviously, because it's a runaway fucking train of success. But $150 buy-in, as we mentioned, to get a Switch Lite and then access that entire library. Or $299 or even cheaper to get a Series S.
Right.
Like if you don't really give a shit and you just want Game Pass, like you can do that.
So there's that sliver of the demographic. So it's like in all the places where they're actually directly competing, this just doesn't seem like a good value proposition.
No. And I think you and I are going to be lockstep on this. They come out and they announce this whole thing, and it's like the worst kept secret in all the whole video game and all that shit. That's all true. But like everyone with a brain and a pair of eyes has seen this generation on Sony, and it's like, yes, they undoubtedly have great games. The Returnal is awesome. The Demon's Souls remake is great. I think I will personally die on the hill of Gran Turismo. It's weird to me how much I like Gran Turismo 7, and it's because of the VR. But I do. Like it's just so it's so future and next gen feeling that it's a special thing that you can only do on the PS5. But like there is unquestionably a dearth, and especially when you compare to the PS4 library and even the PS3 library, which was a real slow to start thing.
Yeah.
But once the ball got rolling, PS3, like you can look back on that library and it's fucking awesome. But here's this new system with like new capabilities, and yet they're not even servicing the existing hardware, which I think this, my good friend, is a wonderful segue to get into Concord.
Okay.
Because
Let's do it.
boy, oh boy, you want to talk about something that was like misguided from the onset and really goes into like the whole problem of what's going on with PlayStation in this generation. They spent all this time, all this money making this thing that nobody wanted. And then they announced it, and it was just an immediate like, well, we don't want this. And then they were like, nah, we think you do. So we're just going to continue all steam ahead. And then they did a beta that would like hardly anybody played.
Right.
And then they released the game day and date on Steam and on PlayStation.
Yes.
And I think it topped at like 600 concurrent players.
Yeah, it's the biggest flop I've ever seen from a game ever. And I mean, I know there's been a lot of huge flops in the history of games.
Yeah.
But in terms of the development cost versus the number of people who actually played it, I mean, it's such a spectacular failure. They pulled it off of the market roughly 10 days, 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks after it came out.
Pulled it off of the market, and anyone who bought the game digitally was refunded.
Right.
As in, like, we sold you a broken product. If you bought it physically, I think I read that there was something that you could potentially do.
So just and then they said it's just a lost cost.
Yeah.
And that cost was revealed to be like $400 million.
So that's what's out there. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Do you think that that's accurate? $400 million.
I would say no, and also I hope not.
That's like 2.5 Waterworlds, just to be clear.
I was going to say Avengers, but yeah. So imagine like, for our audience of latent Gen Xers, so imagine like Waterworld, a trilogy of Waterworld movies gets made, and then Kevin Costner just keeps them in his house.
Yeah.
They're never released to the world at all.
Well, there's a really famous Jerry Lewis movie that is exactly that.
Oh, I didn't
know about that?
No.
So, quick little bird walk here. And it's been in the news lately because apparently there's a cut of this movie that was donated to, I want to say the Smithsonian, and there's talks about them releasing some parts of it. But so it's called something, I think it's Tears of a Clown, and it's about Jerry Lewis, and he's a clown during the Holocaust.
It's a great premise.
Yeah,
great premise.
It's Jerry Lewis, so like he does, but apparently, what's his name? Harry Shearer from The Simpsons saw this movie years and years and years ago, and he said it was like so bizarre but also good at the same time that he didn't know what to make of it. And Jerry Lewis he obviously didn't finish it, and he was like, I don't know what I want to do with this, so I'm just going to sit on it, and I guess I'll donate it. So when I die, maybe someday it'll see the light of day.
Yeah.
But then there's been all this shit with his estate where they don't want it to get out. And there was this like so it was David Cross, like that whole group of like fucking alternative comics in the 90s.
Yeah.
They got a hold of like a script of this, and they like toured performing it. like where they were doing like table reads,
great.
and then someone from Jerry Lewis's estate like found out and they put a squash to it. But anyway, he did that. Like he spent millions of dollars on this movie that's most likely never gonna be seen the light of day. And Concord is in that same spot where it might see the light of day. Like there's talks of them retooling it to be like a free to play game, or just to make like some efforts to make their money back on it,
or just get people to see it.
Yeah, I guess it is. To me, the whole thing was tone deaf. I think people have not given a shit about live service games for way longer than marketing people and executives think. I think that Fortnite is an anomaly, and Roblox too. It's kind of an apples and slightly different colored apples argument, but like Roblox is in its entire own industry, rife with its own challenges and problems as well. But like you really only have Fortnite, and then there's a couple little outliers. Like I know people still play Warframe. I think people still play Destiny. Like there's these little games that kind of like moons to a planet go around Fortnite, but Fortnite's the big one, and everyone's chasing that. Not anymore. I think safely. No one's chasing that super hard anymore.
This and Justice League, I think, were the two death knells. For the
and now like
genre.
that and good, because like honestly, we don't need it. We just don't need it. If you can do it well, it's fine. I've actually had fun playing Fortnite in the past, so I'm not fully shit talking any of that stuff. But we just talked about at length how much we loved Astrobot. Like it's very clear. Like I like.
Yeah,
those kind of video games. So give me more of those.
Oh, and if you want to saturate the market with Astrobots,
sounds great.
No problem there.
Let's do it. How about you remake a Last of Us again? That's what we need. We need a third remake of the first Last of Us game.
Well, or the just announced Horizon Forbidden West remake. That again, nobody was asking for. The graphics in the original are fine.
So we want to sell you a $700 console that's not going to do much.
Yeah.
We're going to spend apparently $500 million on this live service game that looks like RC Cola Guardians of the Galaxy and that nobody wants and immediately shit talks. Thank you, Prince. Then it's one thing after another.
Oh, and I've got to mention earlier, when you're talking about how the 4K 60 and getting the best of both worlds, Alan Wake 2, which I'm almost ready to go back and finish now after my mental health break.
Yeah, you're almost strong enough.
That I believe they've confirmed that game will not be 4K 60.
That rules.
Even on the PS5 Pro. Like, well, we can't do it, or we're not doing it, or whatever they say. I don't want to spread fake news here, but I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. So, look, with Concord, it was just a miss at every level. For one thing, so you said RC Cola. That's perfect, because everybody saw that and was like, oh yeah, you're trying to do Guardians of the Galaxy, but with this, and we're not really into either the original idea or your interpretation of it. And then this game probably started development circa 2019.
Yeah.
And this is, again, the problem of long developments, is that it was in development longer than the genre lasted for.
Yeah.
And now, and it's exact same thing with Justice League. And now everybody's over the genre, and especially over this interpretation of it. And it's bringing absolutely, unlike Astros, it's bringing absolutely nothing new to the table in terms of innovation. So that if you, like, when we talked about Astros, we talked about how it's doing homages, let's call them, to other platform games, other experiences, but it's bringing enough new to the table that's just a fun experience over and over again. Concord, as far as I can tell, isn't doing any of that at all. It's just another one of these games. It's another Overwatch. Yeah, that's another...
Exactly. That's how I understood it as well.
Of course, that's how everybody understood it. That's why only 600 people were playing it at the time. My only regret about this, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, is that I believe it was determined that because they pulled the game so quickly, fewer than 50 people got the platinum trophy for it.
Yeah, that's true. It's 50. Yeah, I think it's right at 50. I think.
And if I knew then what I know now,
because that's your rosebud.
I would have loved to have been a part of that 0.003%.
People are hoarding the disc version of this game because they think it's going to be like a big collector's.
Well,
thing.
you can't play it even if you have the disc. You can install it, but you couldn't play it, right?
Yeah, I think if you install the disc, it just tells you like, "Hey, this doesn't work."
Yeah,
have a good one. You know,
see you later.
Yeah,
nice title screen.
Fuck if you're horny, pal. You know, something like that.
Go to Video Village.
Solve your problem.
You have a better time.
Okay, so it's funny. We mention all this shit, and we talk about how Concord totally lacks innovation. I think we brought up on the show several times. Like there was this point where the PS2, that era, like the innovation was like we haven't even come anywhere near.
Yeah. Well,
that,
for you, that was those were the glory days.
So Sony recently re-released a game called Mr. Mosquito, which is a PS2 game. Sony published it in Japan. It was published in America by IDOS's sister label called Fresh Games. But it was like a $20 total Katamari Damacy job. Like, you go to Best Buy, it's $20, whatever. It's seriously one of the coolest and most innovative games that you can play, and it came out 23 years ago. So at a time where Sony is trying to sell you a $700 thing that doesn't do much, they release Concord, all this other shit, and then they remind you like what's capable and what it used to be like when they released a game like that.
And the things that are doing it's supposed to be the opposite, where the stuff that you're pouring tons of money into is supposed to be the really high quality stuff.
Yeah.
And the stuff that's cheap is supposed to, it's the B movie.
It's the expendable shit. Yeah.
Right. And then instead what you're saying is that, and this Mr. Mosquito, did you actually have to pay for it, or is it just part of PS Plus?
So I'm not a mark, and I don't own any of the tiers above just the normal, which I already do feel like a mark that I pay. Yeah. Let's get it straight here. The reason I give Sony any money for their online service at all is so that when I need help in Elden Ring, I can call in a ringer. To me, that's worth $80 a year. Right. But then okay, whatever. I have like well over a decade worth of PlayStation Plus games on like 3 different consoles that I still want access to. So I guess you've got me. I'll take it back to Mr. Mosquito and how playing this game reminds me of like where I think we're lacking the hardest. Yeah. And that is in like that weird, innovative, like let's do cool shit and try things stuff. Like I think they're super guilty this generation, even more than Microsoft. Because I'll say, for as much as we beat up Microsoft for their flaws on this generation, and we do, like I saw my house in Flight Simulator, and that blew my mind. So it's like, you're gonna have that feather in your cap for the rest of this generation, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, like there's just not. I think it's more glaring on Sony's side, like this lack of innovation and this like, it feels like everyone who's in charge is just some like MBA marketing asshole who doesn't like really understand. And real famously, like I'm a big retro gamer. Everybody knows it, and the reason why is because A, it makes me happy, but B, like. It's stuff like Mr. Mosquito, where like they don't make stuff like this anymore, and I want to play it, right? So the last CEO of Sony made a comment about Gran Turismo 2, and like where he said like, why would anyone want to play this shit? That was I think the verbatim comment that he made, and it was just like, well, because like, why do people want to watch old black and white movies? Like, because like there's a reason for it. Like there's many reasons why you would want to do this kind of a thing.
Who's even heard of Citizen Kane and Casablanca?
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's like the highest level management that's at PlayStation, and like that's the mentality. So I think you can see very clearly why that's trickling down to give us the situation that we're in now.
So Sony changed CEOs, and the new CEO that they brought in.
There's 2 new CEOs.
Two.
It's a tag team.
Yeah.
Not unlike The Office.
And that worked out super well.
Yeah.
The one that I know for sure is Herman Hulst. Yeah. Because he was the founder of Guerrilla Games, and I love Guerrilla Games because Killzone for you and the Horizon games for me. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, good job, guys. This is a really smart move. And I said that at a time when Microsoft was absolutely shitting the bed with all their first-party stuff. And I was like, see, Sony just doesn't make these mistakes. They got the right guy in the right position.
2021.
Right. And so since then, Sony tripled down on live service games. Huge mistake.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They released the Concord, which is the sort of the culmination of that bad decision making back then. All that money that went into Concord could have funded literally 1,000 Mr. Mosquito.
Oh yeah,
the development of those games to make one Mr. Bryan happy. And then they've also put significant resources into making this console that nobody has asked for. So, and then on top of all that, the one thing that in my conversations with my Sony friends, who are not you, they would say, you know what I hate though? I hate when I fire my PC up and you go to play a game and it's super buggy and it doesn't work and you got to wait for all these patches. If you're playing on console, you just put it in and it works and you don't have... And there's something to be said for that. I've experienced that. And for a while...
Well, minus all the patches that you have to download on.
Yeah, well, on day one for your consoles.
Yeah.
But at least there's the Sony... I forgot what they call it, but man, I used to work in the industry too, so I should know this. But anyway, I think that, like the submission request, where you have to submit your game and get Sony's approval before you could actually put it out, so that it would actually work on day one. And then recently, both with Wukong and with the Star Wars Outlaws game that came out, those games were not good on the Sony console specifically, and were pretty good in terms of their technical performance on PC. Mm-hmm. So now even the thing that they're the Sony console is supposed to be really good at, which is it just works, it's not even good at that.
It's even that's slipping from their hands now.
So guys, Herman, we know you're watching.
Yeah,
dude. Stop putting money into console upgrades that nobody's asking for. The PS4 Pro, at least, I think, I remember playing Last of Us 2 on it, and that was supposed to be a better visual experience, a noticeably better visual experience than playing it on the regular PS4. And then obviously the debacle was Cyberpunk. That game was basically unplayable on the original PS4, but playable-ish on the PS4 Pro. So anyway, as far as I could tell with the PS5 Pro, there's none of that. So anyway, that's a bad investment, or appears to be a bad investment. Okay, now the Concord game is clearly a historically bad investment. Such a bad investment that it makes the Justice League, by comparison, look like a success.
Are you familiar with Too Human at all? The Xbox 360 game?
I have a friend who's playing a lot of that, and other than the fact that he's playing it makes me interested in it, I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so it's basically Concord of 15 years ago, but it was made by, it's the game that killed Silicon Knights. Too Human began development as a Nintendo 64 game, then went to the original Xbox, and then went to the 360 where it finally came out. The nitty gritty behind it is that they used Unreal Engine, they being Silicon Knights, and they just sucked at making this game, which is funny because Silicon Knights pretty good at making games, right? But they tried to blame all of their woes on the Unreal Engine, and so they sued Epic and lost, and then Silicon Knights went away. But Too Human came out. It was out for a little bit longer than Concord, but then because of this whole lawsuit, it was demanded that they had to take the game off of store shelves. And then retailers had to liquidate it. So it was like you could buy it for like $7-8 or whatever it was at the time. But the problem of that game, the real problem of that game, same as the real problem of Concord, is that it was just like this super milquetoast, like average at best, combination of all these other experiences and trends that was just designed in a fucking boardroom.
Yeah.
And it lacks all of the charm and innovation and creativity of a lot of other things.
Doesn't it make you feel good in some ways, though? This is such gallows, not even gallows humor, but trying to be the optimist that you know that I am. That so many times a bad product comes out, and because it's just schlock, or because what I'll refer to as the unwashed masses of the body politic of gaming or any other form of media, just consume it. Basically, people pay for bad content all the time. Isn't it kind of nice in a way that like this comes out, it was obvious nobody asked for it, nobody wanted it, and it much like microtransactions have finally been mostly rejected, at least outside of the mobile sphere, by console and PC game developers. We now have rejected this game genre that nobody wants, at least until there's something innovative that actually happens in it. And probably the next real test case for this is going to be the Valve shooter, which is apparent. I've played it. It's the exact same thing with minimal differences as Concord, as Overwatch. It's all this stuff.
Yeah.
You're just doing the same crap. You're in a team. You have special abilities. You're trying to go to a MacGuffin.
But it's on the Source 2 engine, hopefully.
Yeah, and it's made by Valve, so it's got that pedigree.
Yeah.
But if Valve can't get it over the finish line, and they failed really badly with their attempt to enter an overly saturated card game market with Artifact.
Yeah.
So maybe they won't. Maybe then finally,
I just to jump in here, I don't think it's if Valve can't do it, I think Valve has long left development to the wayside. I think Valve is just a publishing entity. Like, people love Half-Life Alyx. I would love to play a Half-Life Alyx. I know it's like the most this is why VR exists kind of experience you can have. But they haven't made a game, like a real proper game, since Half-Life 2 Episode 2, 2007.
Portal 2.
Portal 2. Okay.
So
but even that was like a separate team. Like the Portal team wasn't that like an offshoot of like the general deal.
I mean, and Dota, the ongoing endless development of Dota, so whatever that is.
Well, whatever. This is a bit of a bird walk, but I think you're giving Valve a little bit too much credit as being like just a straight up game
based on their
developer.
former laurels.
Yeah.
They have not put out a new first-party product since 2011, I think, which
Yeah.
is now 13 years. Well, that did well. They tried to do Overlords, which was the card battler, the battle chess auto chess game, and then that failed. And they tried to do Artifact.
Auto
their
chess, yeah, I totally forgot about
right?
that.
Then
The
they
whole
tried
genre.
to do, and then Artifact was their attempt to enter the Hearthstone sphere, and
Yeah.
then that failed. And then now they're trying to do this. So they certainly, their last two attempts at making sort of games didn't work.
Yeah.
It's my opinion that this game also...
Yes. Nailed it.
Also my opinion that this game is also not going to work. But and it's weird because I'm kind of hoping it doesn't work because I'm sick of this genre. I hate it. I played plenty of Overwatch in 2016. I don't need to play any more of it. And it's like Valve, again, just like with Herman, Uncle Gabe,
Yeah.
you could take that.
He's also listening.
Yeah.
The stupid sandwich in his
He and
hand.
I are friends. We got a picture together.
That's true.
At E3.
We proved it on the show.
Yeah.
First episode, I believe.
That's right. and you noticed him from afar. So
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, they take that money and just invest it into things that actually work because we don't need another shooter. Sony just proved that. Now you're just going to reiterate it again. Rocksteady proved it with Justice League.
Yeah.
Valve or Sony proved it now with Concord, and now Valve's going to, I think, the hat trick. All deaths come in
Yes.
threes.
Yeah, that'll be it.
The third one is going to be, I think it's called Deadlock the game, and that'll be the end of this once and for all, hopefully.
Good.
But I am encouraged that it's being rejected by gamers because games like this should be rejected by gamers.
Bad shit should be rejected.
Yeah.
All right, last little thing I want to talk about here on this whole cavalcade of stars that we've been going on here. Yeah. I want to talk about the price. Let's put our conspiratorial hat. Let's go into states' rights mode.
Okay, I'm
as we
ready.
talk about this.
Yeah.
I think that there's a part of this whole PS5 Pro thing is that it's a test case to jack up the prices for the next round of consoles. And I think Sony, so they've been selling $500 systems for a while. The rest of the world has gone up with inflation. And if you look at the value, like the dollar hour value of video games as a form of entertainment, it's always there's like this huge gap where you could be like, it's a sound investment, right? So they have wiggle room, so they can experiment with charging a little bit more money. So PS5 Pro coming out at $700, the PS6, whenever that exists, I'm saying here on the record that they're going to try to do $699 going forward with all that. I see the good prince nodding in agreement.
I don't see that. I don't know. I don't think he's doing that.
You don't. Oh, because that's only because of your positioning, right? Your physical body position. There you go. Now he's done it.
He's not nodding.
He was, in fact, nodding. Anyway, that's what I'm talking about. I think that this is not just them, trying to milk the hardcores and get that extra funny money on. I think this is also them experimenting with pricing.
I would say this. I actually agree with you that the next console is probably going to be $699, mostly as a product of just inflation over time. And we're also talking about 3 to 4 years from now. There has been some light reporting on this. I haven't seen like a Jason Schreier in-depth investigative reporting on it, but there's at least, I think there's market analysts, I think, who have said that the pricing structure of the PS5 Pro is much more a reflection of the lack of general competition in the market, because since the Switch is at the end of its life cycle, and the Xbox is like really shit the bed in terms of console sales.
Yeah.
That Sony's looking around and it's like, we're outselling our chief competition, the Xbox, 5-1.
Yeah.
So we can charge this much and get away with it because it's not like people are going to go buy an Xbox. They're buying PlayStations. That is at least what some reporting has said. Now, the reporting is not like Sony people. It's market analysts who are just like trying to figure out stock prices. So who knows how authoritative it is. But that is the version that makes the most sense to me. That being said, the $700 console, that's happening. And in 2028...
Well, just like the $70 video game has happened.
Of course.
Yeah.
When you and I are lining up for the midnight launch or whatever it is of the PS6, then I'm going to be expecting to shell out $700 for the console. $100 for the second controller.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Days of $20 controllers are long gone.
Yeah, and probably $80 by that point for the day one launches of Astrobot 2.
Yeah. Oh, hey, sounds good. I want that.
And Last of Us 3.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, the Switch 2, whenever it decides to come out, like there's no way that thing is going to be over $500. I do think that they could be flirting.
Oh, that's pretty.
They could be flirting.
Predict the price.
So Switch 2, I think they will have a $499 SKU. I think they'll probably do.
That's interesting.
I think they'll do a $400, $399, and a $499. I think they'll do both. What say you, Prince? What do you think they're doing?
400 I think is a solid one. 499 maybe with a bundle.
Yeah.
400 I think is.
The launch, the Switch was $299 in 2017.
Yeah. I'm gonna say 450.
450.
I'm gonna
They did the Wii U, the 32 gig model, the good Wii U.
Yeah.
I think that was 450. I'm pretty sure if I remember right. So they've done it.
All right. Well, 450, Bob.
All right. Let's see. Yeah, we'll see exactly.
I say we make a bet. Whoever wins, the other people buy.
You have to buy it
and
for
we
'em.
camp out because we're camping out for the.
We're
Switch.
camping out no matter what.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna ruin
wait,
my back doing
Wait,
that.
so whoever wins the bet, the other, the losers have to buy that person's console?
No, a game.
Yeah. Dial that back real quick. Yeah. No. I said just a game. A used game from a previous console is what
I
we
didn't say
landed
what
on.
game.
Mr. Mosquito?
I'll download Mr. Mosquito for you because I believe in it so highly.
You get Thief Simulator on the Switch.
Yeah, $1.99 routinely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
Okay. Well, anyway, I think in closing, we're not pumped on the PS5 Pro, and we're kind of not pumped with
Sony in general, outside of Astrobot.
Yeah, but who knows? Astrobot could be the turning of the tide. The CEO that I think it was the same idiot CEO that didn't understand why people enjoy older things.
Yeah.
He did also say that no, we know what we have with Astrobot, and we are doubling it into the family market.
Good. Well, and look, I mean, this is the last comment, but I personally have been waiting around for like a year and a half at this point for all these Sony first-party developers to announce their next games, specifically Sucker Punch, specifically now Sony Santa Monica, who just finished with God of War Ragnarok, specifically Housemarque, and specifically, obviously, the big boy, Naughty Dog. And just in the last week, they finally announced the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. So it's like that's something, I guess, while I'm waiting around for all these other... But if what we're being told by the powers that be at Sony is that you see Astrobot, you like that, fine, we're going to do more of that. And also, we recognize now that Concorde was an abject failure, so we're going to be doing less of that.
Yes.
That I know it's like turning the Titanic, it's going to take years and years, but that's the direction I want the industry to go in.
No, I think that more, we said on an episode a couple ago, but Square Enix publicly announced that too.
Yes.
That we're dialing back on this sunk cost bullshit,
Good.
And we're making cheaper games, and more people should do that. Because I think that's the sweet spot. That's that PS2, GameCube, Xbox sweet spot, is when you have professional video game developers that are known, being cool, being able to be creative and experiment with shit with lower budgets. And let's do that.
And you don't have to blow out the budget. Helldivers is one of the best games this year. That was a $40 game.
Yeah.
Astrobot is the best game I played this year, and that was not a $70 game.
Yeah.
So they don't all have to be $400 million investments
They sure don't.
that shit the bed on launch. There's another way, guys. So let's see more of that.
I believe optimistically. I think that tide is turning.
And you are an optimist, as we know.
As well established, yeah.
Very well
An eternal optimist. Okay, so that's going to be this one. Please subscribe, leave comments, offer episode suggestions as we barrel closer and closer to that states' rights side podcast that we're working on.
Brian, God damn it, dude.
We've changed. We as a unit have changed. And it's time. It's time for it.
I have a shitty uncle on Facebook who posts flat and he posts flat Earth memes on and he tags me in them all the time.
Right.
And it's like I have other people saying to me are you a flat earther? Because I'm tagging all of his jokes. So your states' rights bit is your
little too close to home, is what you're saying.
A little too close to home. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So anyway.
in any event,
Yeah.
thank you.
What's the name of the show though? The States Right Show.
the States right?
The State of the State or something.
Isn't it Hot Wings presents? What is it?
It's Hot Wings presents Hot Takes
That's
or State of the State.
State of the State presents Hot Wings, Hot Takes. Some combination of all of those things. We have it all. We're talking hot takes. We're talking hot wings. That's everyone. Everyone wants those things.
And I also don't even like hot wings.
Well,
Yeah, new host.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Someone who wants to make money.
I like Hot Wings.
You're in, Prince.
Oh, cool. I'll produce.
Yeah.
I can operate a soundboard.
We got a Corey Haim soundboard right
Me
now.
and
I love
Corey,
Alex Jones. I love Buffalo Wings.
Yeah, perfect. The right man for the job. Okay, well, I don't think we need a gentleman's handshake on that one.
We're good.